So, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I meet here from City of Mist, superhero role playing game, sort of. So,
Sort of.
let's jump back into it. If you
Let's.
if you want to go over with us, what City of Mist is all about and how you came about it.
Yeah. So City of Mist is a role-playing game about legendary powers, ordinary people getting having legendary powers. So it's about a city where every person is a kind of a living embodiment of some kind of legend, story, myth, and but most people just don't remember it because of a special effect called the mist. So the people who do remember it kind of run this secret life and basically run the city. But when you start the game, you're just kind of awakening to all of that, and so it's a very investigative game. You're discovering other people's with powers, and it does have that kind of like superhero noir feel, like Jessica Jones, Daredevil, because of course because of the superpowers. But it has also very much a magical, mystical, legendary touch to it as well. So, in a nutshell.
And then, so a lot of people in the chat are just raving about the art. Also, people are popping in over on your website, which as always, guys, all the socials and the website, all that good stuff is in the description on the YouTube channel and Facebook, so you guys are able to check that out easily. But they're loving the website and all the art they're looking at.
Yeah, the art is created by mainly. There's a lot of artists involved, but the main artist is Marcin Sobon. He's a Polish guy. He's amazing. We've been working together for a few years, and yeah, he's given the game most of the that feel, that kind of comic book graphic novel feel that we want. And we also have another Polish artist, Mariusz Schultz, and they're both together. They're pretty awesome. So we're very proud of what we accomplished there.
So, what inspired City of Mist?
Actually, it was a campaign that I ran a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago, and a series of campaigns. And the world was kind of, you know, being built over several iterations. But I think I just really like that idea of magical superheroes or mystical superheroes. And I liked it even more in a noir setting. So things like, fables, or specifically, if you've ever played The Wolf Among Us, that awesome mobile game by Telltale. That's a great investigative game that inspired it. Jessica Jones, all the Defenders, Marvel Netflix series, and yeah, these are the major inspirations for this kind of noir style.
So, James Leslie says, not to scare anyone, but they have purchased bundles. So I know they were talking and debating a little bit about prices earlier, um,
Sure.
and you had some staunch defenders of the price. Absolutely, I don't even know. I haven't even looked, but
Yeah,
there's a ton of art, and art costs money.
it's a ton of art. It's a huge book. The core book is actually, sorry, it ended up being like Pathfinder size. I have it here. It's 500 pages, and it's a narrative game, so it's really not 500 pages of rules. I mean, you can go on our Amazon page, and people really explain what's in there. But I can go over it later. But it was really like my first book, and I just put everything I could give people in it. So it's a big production. Yeah.
So it sounds like if your powers aren't enough to defeat crime, you could use the book and beat it.
Definitely, that has been insinuated by many people.
Alfie, just how super do people get in the game?
Just how okay, so yeah, that's an interesting thing. You can start very street level. Actually, I think one of the special things about the game is that you can range from street level to what we call avatar mode, which is almost like demigod. But these characters can play together, because from a narrative perspective, nobody has more power than the other. The street level characters have the same ability to change the story as all powerful superhero avatars of legends. So I think that's one cool thing about the game that people like. You can start off as someone just kind of discovering the city, and then you can very fast escalate to this super powerful creature if you want that for your character. You can also stay on that street level place or in that place for a very long time. So players have a lot of power, deciding where to take their character.
So the Mighty Hobbs wants to know if you can quickly run through the basics of the game.
Yeah, so the game is actually, I think the best way to show it is kind of like with this starter set character, Salamander. So everybody has every character has four themes divided between Mythos, which is the legendary, and Logos, the red ones, which are the ordinary. This guy is more ordinary than legendary. And you have power tags, which are little descriptions of what you can do, abilities you have, resources you have. And every time you try to do anything, you roll 2d6 and you add the number of tags that are relevant for what you're doing. So if you're trying to punch someone, and you can use brawl. If you're trying to, find your way in the city, you can use knows every street, and so on and so forth. So every tag like that gives you a +1 to the roll. And there are certain categories. If you roll 6 or less, you it's a miss, and then the MC gets to take an action. If you roll 7 to 9, it's a mixed success and failure, and if you roll 10 or more, it's a success. So this is kind of, many people have said that this is Dungeon World and Fate combined. If you know these games.
Yeah, because Spacey Goblin, it says powered by Apocalypse, same core system Apocalypse World. It's not though, but it's similar.
No, it's definitely powered by Apocalypse, but in powered by Apocalypse games, you usually have stats, and you add those stats to your 2d6 rolls. Whereas in City of Mist, you just pile all the tags that are relevant, and you add that to the roll. Of course, you have conditions that serve as negative modifiers, and you have weakness tags which serve as negative modifiers. So it gets pretty interesting.
So one of your staunch supporters in the chat here, Jarl DM, do you have more content in the works, expansions, more lore, and especially case adventures?
Yes, I think you'll probably be happy to hear that our next book is going to be a story arc book with along the lines of 10 cases. And there is also the campaign book that's coming out, which is actually a supplement. So that would have four chapters, each expanding on different parts of the city. One chapter expanding about locations and characters in the city. One chapter expanding about avatars, the big evils in the dark. One about the gatekeepers, and one about an event that's going to destroy the mist in the city, and everybody's going to reveal what they truly are. So these are four expansions. They're going to be in one book.
Uh, I'd say it a 950. The starter set is so good. Like I said, you guys definitely have some fans in the chat today hanging out with us. So you said you had run campaigns previously in City of Mist. Now, was that using Apocalypse Engine then, or had you already kind of like prototyped the game and you had just been playing it for a while and finally decided to bring it public?
No, originally we played the original campaign was actually played with Hero System, which is as far removed from a narrative story as can be. It's like very, very scientific, and everything is kind of, represented with very specifically. It's a game I love, but I've definitely moved over to the narrative neighborhood. And then we did one game with Fate, but that was great. Actually, that was as close as I wanted it. But I love Powered by Apocalypse. It just drives the story forward so aggressively, and I love that. It's like it makes the game very cinematic. So I had to marry kind of the good things in Fate with Apocalypse World.
So I have to agree. As I get older, I prefer narrative and rules light. to to really heavy crunchy systems. 5e Dungeons and Dragons is about as crunchy as I want to get right now, and in comparison to other games, that's pretty crunchy. So
Yeah, but it's also they've. I really love this version. They've really made it easier for people who are kind of more narrative inclined to find their space within this Dungeons and Dragons product. So I love 5e.
Brian has a question. How do you handle origin story for each hero, and are there ones matched to the powers you get?
Yeah, so origin stories are very interesting. They're kind of a central thing to City of Mist. So in your character, every one of your mythos themes has a mystery that you have to investigate, so that you actually don't start knowing your origin story, but you have this very strong mechanical drive to investigate and explore your origin story and the questions that are at the heart of your powers. And the more you do that, the more you can reach certain points where you actually discover something about your story. And at that point, you decide every time anew, because you can choose differently every time. You decide if you're the one giving the answer to the question you were exploring, or the MC does that, or people around the table. So you can decide whether you're kind of controlling where your origin story goes, or you let other people in the group do it. But you're always exploring it. You're always investigating who you are, which I think is fundamental to this genre.
So
So
so obviously the MC is the GM role, but what does that stand for?
Master of Ceremonies. I think it's just like any other MC. I really like that because I love Game Master as well, but I feel that Apocalypse World has this special aspect that where the MC plays to find out. He doesn't know. He or she do not know. They don't know what's going to happen in the end. That's kind of a staple of Apocalypse World. It's not a scripted thing, and they're more like facilitators of the game. So I really like that MC, name to it, because that's really what you do. You're kind of the host of the game.
Nice. So are there any like overarching villains or big bads? Do you have your Doctor Dooms for the
Oh yeah.
City of Mist?
Yeah, it's kind of inherent in the game, because of this effect called the mist, this barrier, this veil that hides all of the supernatural activity in the city. The more powerful someone becomes, the more the mist tries to hide them from the normal residents of the city, and that makes the villains very much in the shadows and kind of affecting the city from afar. So in the core book, there are four villains. I'm not gonna expose them because the whole thing is like to investigate and get there. But for MCs, you have four completely fleshed out villains and their operations, and each one of them is actually a pure manifestation of a mythos or a legend. And there's also a guide on how to create your own based on whatever you like.
So it's kind of like urban fantasy in that regards, then as well.
It is very much so urban fantasy, and it's kind of cool because the villain's agenda always is to manifest their story to the utmost level all over the city. So if you're, I don't know, if you're Peter Pan, you want everybody to be carefree and carefree and like forever young. And that tends to, whenever you get really radical about it and you have a whole operation to make that happen, that tends to become pretty villainous. And it doesn't really matter what your what your agenda is. It's just you push it hard enough, it becomes a villain. So it's really easy to create interesting villains in the system.
So in the default setting, are many other like mythologies explored alongside of each other?
Yeah, I was really trying to get mythologies from all over the world into it. Of course, I really wanted the individual theme. I didn't want to start getting into groups like pantheons, but because I think in City of Mist, the beauty of it is not just your mythos, it's your what we call your logos, your everyday persona. So we just released this character generator where you match them. You match mythos with logos, so people got really cool things like sun god politician and assassin, doctor. I mean, there are really cool things. I don't know, mischievous fairy, getaway driver. So these combinations are really cool because it's very street level. The characters also have a human persona.
What does character creation look like?
There's a couple of ways of creating characters. Some of them are quicker. Some of them are a bit more involved. But there's a couple of things I can show you here. Basically, your character, like I said, is made out of four themes. So you use these cards to. This is like the character card. So I'm just going to get rid of that for a moment. Use these cards just like you have with all your moves on the back. And to create a character, you have to choose theme books, which are questionnaires that help you create those themes. So, for example, if you're using for your ordinary persona, you can pick things like defining event in your lifetime or in your past, a mission that you have, defining relationships, and so on. And you for your superpowers, you choose things like divination, which is powers that allow you to know things, and expression, which are powers that allow you to affect things, and so on and so forth. And these theme books are actually also included in the book. They kind of run you through the creation of each theme. So it can be really involved for people who like it, but it can also be kind of like, okay, I want this, this, and that, and you just stack it together, and you're ready to go.
With all the like play aids you keep pulling out, it makes the game feel very tactile.
Yeah, we're trying to make it. Yeah, we're trying to make it really fun to play and visual. I think that's what the art is about, the graphic design. I mean, I love games that are like that, so we just wanted to make one too.
So Kyle Ellis wants to know: Can I play? Can a player have control of gravity as a power? That is my only requirement. I still need filled.
The answer is yes. We even have a character in the starter set that can control time. And there's because it's narrative, these things are possible. So for example, there's a really cool move called stop holding back, where you can make a really big sacrifice, sometimes very big, so don't use it too often, to really let your powers go. And people have turned back time, they have melted down parts of the city, they have, when you really want to do that and you're willing to sacrifice a part of your character, you get this end of movie moment where the hero is kind of sacrificing something big. And I always think of Spider-Man 2, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 over that, but I'm not going to spoil it to anyone, even though it's pretty old. Um, um, you can sacrifice something from your life or something from your powers, and for this moment where you save the city or you get things your way, yeah, including turning the gravity backwards in the whole city.
So Charles Cole has a question, and I think you've kind of been kind of saying this pretty much all along: is how easy is it to do custom builds?
I think every character is a kind of a custom build. I mean, we have the theme books, but you can also just and they help you create certain themes. Sorry, but you can also just drop them and choose the tags you want. So the characters are extremely customized, extremely.
I'm looking at some of the comments and questions in the chat. It's like
Sure.
everyone wants to always try to turn things to Dungeons and Dragons or use them for Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we get that so often. Like, how do I play Star Wars with Dungeons and Dragons? I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you just grab one of the 5 or 6 editions of Star Wars they made and use that
Well,
instead?
I have to say that the next product we have in the works is a fantasy game based on that. So yeah, of course we want to do that.
So TrueMate says the art looks great. Who's the artist? You said you had a couple different artists, but you had one main artist.
Yes, the main artist for the characters and most of the art in the book is Marcin Sobon. You can find him on our website and on Behance. And another lead artist for the location and the maps is Mariusz Schultz. And we've also been working with a couple of other really talented artists, so you can see their work across the book. For example, I really, really like locations art that Mariusz has created. Uh, I'll show you one thing that my favorite. So there's this kind of this is the art for the industrial zone. I don't know if you can see it, but there's kind of a something in the smoke rising from the industrial zone. So the book is just full of this art, and yeah, I think these guys are awesome.
So from listening to you, I gather there's basically like two worlds going on at the same place at kind of at the same time. So what happens when normal people find out that this other world exists?
They don't. That's the whole thing. I mean, as soon as you see something supernatural, if you're a sleeper, as we call them, if you're a normal person in the city, you're just going distracted all of a sudden. Your phone's going to ring, something's going to call you away, or you'll doubt that you saw what you saw. Sometimes even weather or other things will get in the way, obstruct your sight. And even if you did see something supernatural, your mind will kind of either forget it or excuse it as something else. So unless this is your moment to awaken, and then a mythos chooses you and you awaken in that moment, and then you actually start remembering, which is where the character's story can start in some games.
So I mean, I get you have antagonists and protagonists to have a good story. So when the antagonists start winning, I guess you would say, and making affecting the real world. So how does that affect things, or do people just like kind of auto edit and make something up like it was a weather balloon or whatever?
Yeah, so we
Terrorists.
have the city's very much morally gray. So you don't have good guys and bad guys. You have people, and everybody has an agenda, everybody has needs, everybody has passions, and people commit crimes just like people in the real world. Sometimes because their mythos tells them. Sometimes they just use their mythos powers for their own personal greed or whatever drives them. So I think things are very, very gray. And when you know there's also another force. The mist is an active force, so it's actually working against any rift. These legends are called rifts. Any superpowered person who's trying to kind of affect a lot of people, the mist is going to try and kind of subdue them, sometimes even seal them forever and make them a sleeper again. So there's a lot of forces playing here. And finally, if you really get to that super avatar stage, you kind of have this operation. You're working from the shadows, and then you have weaker villains, and then weaker and weaker villains until you're hitting the street level. So when you're investigating that as a hero or a detective, you at the beginning you're just seeing these occurrences that are kind of half normal, and then you realize there's someone behind all of this, and that kind of the plot thickens and thickens from there.
Do you have like a recommended like table size as far as number of players?
I think you can really take it, to what you're used to. I think it plays out like most role playing games. I personally, I like smaller groups because I like giving a lot of spotlight for each one of the players. So I didn't never play with more than 3 or 4 people. It's not never. I just don't really like that. In cons, it's nice, but not in a campaign. But I think people have played it with 7 and 8 players. They've actually put together several starter sets to have a character for everyone. So this has been done, yeah.
And so what does that look like? What does the gaming group look like? 'Cause, like I know if I'm playing D&D, I know what an adventuring party is. But like so how do you get these characters together? Why do they work together? In other genres, it always seems a little bit tougher. And this is kind of since it's more of detective noir, so how do you get a group of detectives working together all the time?
Right. So when you create a game, you actually create it with your group. And the first thing you create is a series concept, which kind of defines what is the nature of your group. And that's the baseline. You start already knowing each other. So it's either because you're all awakened at the same time, or you were a part of this event that you all share, or you guys run this kind of investigation, PI office like in Jessica Jones, or your vigilantes, or your professionals just working for money. But you establish that at the beginning. So the groups, the series concept actually has a lot of weight when it comes to deciding the nature of your campaign, because it could be completely different if it's a heist game, because you're a team of professional, that's one thing. If you're investigating crime, that's another thing. If you're dabblers in the mystical arts and you're looking for cults in the dark, that's another third thing. So you actually choose that as a group at the beginning of the session zero, as it's kind of defined in the book.
So are there are there tips and kind of like tools for that in the core book?
Yeah, the core book is packed with tips. I mean, the reason it's so big is that it has guides for running sessions. Obviously, a very long guide for character creation is session zero. It has a guide for running sessions. It has a guide for creating cases, investigative cases. A guide for creating story arcs, villains. It's very very rich with tips and directions, and people have been very vocal about it as well. They're very happy that this is so so detailed. We got a lot of really good feedback on that.
Yeah, I feel like there's just certain areas in different genres that are really GMs struggle with, especially if they're not as familiar with them. Like everyone kind of understands what an adventuring party is and how that will work. For the heist aspect, that's not too bad either. Like people kind of have the idea you put together a crew, or the same thing if you're playing like kind of like a Firefly type game. You understand the crew there, but then when you get into certain genres, it's a little more ambiguous, and it's like you don't read books and see movies that are set up that way. So you kind of have to like define it.
Except for Defenders, and that wasn't even done that well. So so I wouldn't
Yeah.
take it from there. But yeah, I agree. This is a genre that takes a little bit of kind of thinking to move into the game. But I'm happy to say we did this thinking for you. So that's all in the book, and people have been running crazy campaigns with this already, and I'm actually pretty happy to read these things because people are using it, and that's the best part of it.
So James Leslie, looking at the site, there's a lot of stuff out of stock. How often does stuff bounce in and out of, or in and out, or restock?
Yeah, so actually, we didn't realize how successful the the accessories are going to be. So we're going to reprint them. So we don't have a final date for another wave of accessories to arrive, but it's definitely happening. So stay tuned.
Well, I mean that's a good problem to have. People want it, so you're selling out.
Yeah,
That's much
yeah,
better than have a bunch of stuff laying around that you can't get rid of.
yeah. Well, I think people just really like I think the cards are what people really like. The cards, the maps are really beautiful. We have this set of 10 kind of like city maps of all kinds of. For example, this is an top-down view of Chinatown with all the little street lamps.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So yeah,
Where
there's a bunch of things.
where are some of the things that you kind of took inspiration from when you were running it? Even going back to like your earliest versions of the game when maybe you're even using other systems.
Um, Sorry, when I was running it, what did I kind of go back to?
No, what was your inspiration?
Yeah, I think there's a part of some things I took from previous versions, like the whole concept of the gatekeepers that I don't want to go too deeply into because it's kind of a spoiler. And yeah, I mean, the mist in general was something that was developed in the first campaign, but then a lot of it was also added as we were creating. I was creating City of Mist. I was the editor. Eran Aviram was also involved in that with the game design. So we were piecing things together until we liked it.
And how long was that process before you got to the point where you actually released it?
Well, the first time I had the idea of creating a game, and the first draft I did was in, I guess, 2014. But then I saw that someone had already created a superhero game for powered by the apocalypse. It's called World in Perils. It's a great game, and but it wasn't. So I dumped it for. I mean, I really dropped the project for about a year, and then I played Worlds in Peril, and it was awesome, but it didn't do what I wanted it to do. And then I said, okay, I'm restarting this project. So I guess it was all in all 2 years before we released. 1 year for the starter set, and then I guess another year before the core book was completed.
Cool. So it's been in the works for a little while. Uh, True are there any organizations that make sure the sleepers keep awake, keep unaware? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you don't need them because the mist does it, right?
I could tell you, but you're going to forget it in like 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
no point.
So Jordan Drake wants to know: City of Mist. Would you compare it to Magicians, the TV series? I'm not sure if you're familiar with that TV series because I am not.
Actually, no, I've never heard of it.
I uh,
But
I don't watch very much TV, so and I find that people that are creating a lot of content don't either. There's just isn't enough time.
yeah, yeah. It's there's very little time. I'm actually still trying to catch up with Jessica Jones season 2, and that's kind of like the top of my list because this is so City of Mist. So I'm kind of getting a few minutes here and there to watch, a quarter of an episode every time. We'll get there.
So let's see. TrueMate has another question. Are there any pre-gen characters for the game for players making characters to benchmark?
Of course. So the starter set. First of all, the starter set is free to download as PDF. So this game is actually in many ways free to play. If you want to download it as a PDF. These playbooks, which are the printed starter set, contain 7 characters that you can benchmark, and we also have another character that is downloadable from our site, a really cool one. Lily Chow, and her legend is Iron Hans, if anyone knows that legend.
So, what is out of all the games you've played or run, what is your favorite character you've seen so far?
Characters that people create. You mean other characters that people have created?
Yeah, they've come. Has anything surprised you?
Hmm. Okay, there's there's one game where the group totally threw me off. They decided they on the first session they decided that the group is a support group. It's actually a support group, and more so, it was a support group in a Jewish community center. So that obviously was like, okay, that's an interesting start for a campaign. It was one of the craziest campaigns I've ever played and ran. And some of the characters there are going to definitely be in our future products because it's amazing what you can do when you just let your creativity go. And it was a very psychological campaign, and the villain was someone who can, kind of influence your emotions very deeply. So it was cool, but this all came from the players. This is why I always recommend to MCs, let the players run the show. I mean, they decided it was going to be a support group, so and it became this super psychological game with a great finale.
I just envision the group like going out and looking for people newly awakened to recruit into their support group.
I know it's
Don't go solving mysteries or pull off heists. Come, let's come talk about your feelings instead.
yeah, totally, and it's cool because there is you also create a crew theme. It's not just your themes. There's also like a crew theme, so it's a separate card, and the crew has its own. kind of agenda that's or identity as we call it, and if you don't follow it, the crew starts taking um, you know I don't know, negative impact. So they also always had this balance of trying to keep that support group together, but each one of them wanted to do something else. So one of them was playing a salamander, but kind of as a trickster god, and he constantly wanted to light things up, and that went very, very badly around the city. He blew up a couple of things, and they had to do an intervention for him. So that was it was pretty amazing. And there were many other campaigns that were cool, but I remember this one because it was so out there.
So Julian Drake says that was a kosher campaign.
It was a very kosher campaign, and they also some of them created characters based on kind of Jewish heritage. So it was very, very interesting. Yeah, it was cool.
So you have your mythos aspect, you have the agenda of the crew, the group, and then there's also this idea, I guess, that you have this regular life as well. Amongst all the sleepers. How does that like play into the game?
Right. So remember when I said that your powers have these questions that you have to investigate? So your ordinary life has statements called identities that you have to uphold. You have to play with them. You have to kind of keep them going. And if you neglect them, you gradually start losing the themes that they belong to. So characters in City of Mist are very, very dynamic. You can actually, when you have your four themes, if you don't explore your mythos or follow your identities, you can actually eventually choose to lose one theme, and then what happens is that you get another theme from the other side. So the balance of your ordinary life and your legendary life constantly changes. Now, if you get to the point like this, when you have more ordinary than legendary, and then you lose your last legendary aspect, you become a sleeper again. And if you have the reverse situation where you have three purple ones, three mythos and one logos, and you lose your final logos, your character then becomes an avatar, and there's special rules for how you kind of get the spotlight for a few episodes as your character is tearing through the city and your friends are trying to maybe either fight you or get you back or control you and kind of snap you back out of your full-on mythos mode. So there's a lot of character development in the game.
But your sleeper friends wouldn't be able to affect you at all because you wouldn't exist to them anymore.
It's true. Yeah. If one of the characters is a sleeper, then, I mean, became a sleeper. So they don't even know about what's going on. They just want to block it out. By the way, when a character becomes a sleeper, there's also rules for the other characters to try and wake them up and get them back into the game. This could happen if someone had this major drama in their life and they just don't want to hear about powers anymore, and they kind of seal off, and then the other crew members are trying to wake them up again.
So for the rest of the world, for the city, that character that goes full avatar, do they just cease to exist, like written out of existence, or is it like so and so went missing, now they're on a milk carton or whatever?
Um, no, they don't necessarily cease to exist for everyone. Actually, some of them even have public identities in the city, but nobody knows they're the avatar of death or the avatar of, I don't know, butterflies. So nobody knows that. So people just treat them as as the mayor, as a celebrity, as I don't know, a famous scientist, but nobody knows they're actually ruling a whole operation, a mythical operation. So, and others do stay in the shadows, but the mist kind of makes sure that they're hidden, but not necessarily out of sight.
So clearly you've played other Supers games. When you set about creating City of Mist, what did it need to do that other games weren't doing for you at the time?
Um, right. So yeah, I guess the two things that come to mind. First of all, it needed to be completely open-ended in terms of the power sets that you can have. I didn't want a lot of super games try to kind of calculate everything. So I knew that I was going the other direction and I was going to work with tags, and I needed to find a way to make tags balanced so that you can't just say I'm immune to everything, which you can't, but you can say I'm invincible. You can have a Luke Cage character, but you get into other trouble. So that's one thing I really wanted to do. The other thing I really wanted to have in a game was that characters from completely different power levels can be in the same story without breaking the balance for the players. So characters, doesn't matter how many power themes you have, you still have the same number of tags. So you know how sometimes in a story the weakest character is a character that changes everything just because of their true heart or because of their skills, their everyday skills. So this can happen in the game as well. And actually, another thing that was very important to me was the cinematic. I wanted to do a game that would be like evoke very very cinematic moments and focus on that kind of storytelling. So it had to be rules light. It had to be pretty quick around the table. It had to be more narrative, and then the rules are also encouraging all kinds of cinematic moments.
So I think it says on the site that it's kind of a mismatch of Apocalypse Engine as well as Fate. So what elements from Fate did you pull in?
Fate was actually more of an inspiration. The actual counterpart to Apocalypse World was Lady Blackbird. There was a big inspiration. That's a tag-based game by John Harper, and if I'm not mistaken, and yeah, that was inspiration for using the tags instead of stats in Apocalypse World. Fate was kind of an inspiration, like the four themes, like the aspects in a Fate character. So it was more like a high level inspiration.
Gotcha. Now, Mutants and Masterminds also uses kind of like a tag system, descriptors, but that is definitely not a narrative system, I would say. Eh,
No, and I think they used it for conditions, right?
So, well, what they use is for the powers, like the powers are all effect based. So it doesn't
Yeah,
matter like if it's a gravity power or a fire power. It's just like does it do damage, and then you would put your tag on it, your descriptor from
yeah,
gravity or from fire. So that was my first exposure to that kind of system, and I like it a lot.
yeah. It's awesome. I like it. That's Hero System is pretty much the same. I mean, I think they even have very very similar effects lists. It's very very similar, and I did play Mutants and Mastermind. I thought it was great. It's different. It's more crunchy. It's a lot more crunchy. You roll a lot. You calculate a lot, and I do love that. Except when it kind of slows down the action. That was when I kind of veered away from that. But I had a lot of fun with it.
So, Geek and Undies has a question. Can the Awakened tap into their past incarnations, like, say, memories? I would love to run a Memento-esque game with flashbacks where players start remembering their past flash forwards to.
Cool. That sounds awesome. There is actually a mechanic for flashbacks in the game because it's such a staple of the noir genre, and see if you can use that. That sounds like an amazing idea.
So apparently, but and I feel like with a narrative system, most of them kind of allow for anything like that. The idea of, tapping into memories, that's easy enough for something to be role played out in the game. And Apocalypse Engine means you guys, the players, are kind of like writing the adventure, and the GM just is, or the CM just dictates what's going on, right? How difficult it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely prep for the MC to have, especially in City of Mist, because City of Mist is an investigative game. You do have to have an investigation and like the clues prepared, and we use this model called the iceberg model to plot that. You plot that, and then the players kind of start at the surface level, and they kind of dig down into the iceberg until they found the reason for everything. And so it's but once you get to the table, you play to find out. Like there are no rules. All your prep could be, you know, it's not that it's useless, but your prep is can be used in different ways. That character doesn't have a specific role. It really depends on how the characters take it. Maybe the characters strike a deal with the villain to start controlling the city, and then the campaign changes a little bit. So it's very open ended.
No, I totally get that. I mean, I even though we play D&D more than anything, I kind of do my adventures that way anyway. Like, there's a couple ideas, I throw them out there, see what the players bite on, and then, like you had said earlier, you just listen to them, and when they start saying things that are interesting, you go, "Yep, that's what we're gonna do."
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the genius behind the Apocalypse World. And Vincent Baker, the guy who created it, I think did a huge service for role playing games because he kind of put. I heard many people say that he kind of created a game that shows you how to be a good GM. And sure, you can figure it out on your own. You have your own style, but the game actually kind of structures how to be a good GM. So I was 100% sure that I'm taking that on board when I created the game.
So you said the next expansion is into adventures and mysteries. Do you have anything planned beyond that?
Well, it's going to be pretty hefty because it's going to have about 10 cases. And we also have the campaign book, which is coming. So these are the two City of Mist expansions. We do want to release another game, which is a fantasy game, classic fantasy game based on City of Mist. And there are a couple of other games in the works as well, which it's very early to discuss. So
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like you maybe want to explore some other genres as well.
yeah, I think the system has a lot of potential. Right now, what I'm working on is how to kind of deconstruct fantasy and especially this legend quest game the way we did for the superhero or urban fantasy noir genre. So I want to deconstruct it because that's what makes Apocalypse World games so good. You know, they kind of help you create that a specific genre. So that's going to take some time. We're not going to be able to just migrate City of Mist, but the tags mechanic is so fluid that we really want to use it in another fantasy game.
Will will you be able to port over elements from the different games you want to do back and forth, or are they going to be specific to themselves?
Actually, yeah, we're planning that. So I think that once we release the fantasy legend kind of game, it's going to be easy to port your character from the legend to be a mythos of a character in City of Mist because you've created a legend. So this legend could live on in a character in City of Mist. And there's another game that's also gonna be kind of connected to City of Mist, but different. So yeah, we're definitely creating this kind of meta universe here, world by world. But it's going to take some time.
So the city of mist, is that just a metaphor, or what is beyond the city? Because it sounds like everything is based in this one area. It sounds like.
Yeah. So in the book, we say it very clearly. There is nothing beyond the city limits, or at least no one in the story ever thinks there is. So the characters are kind of always, and the people of the city are kind of always focused on this city. What is beyond there? That's something you can actually touch on if you level up like several times and so to speak, it's not really leveling up, but if you reach that point you can actually choose to discover what's outside of the city, and that's for you and the MC and your group to find out.
So you guys don't really touch on that.
No, because I think a good urban story focuses on the city. I mean, we could do this generic superhero game where you also fly on the other side of the world and you have the world scene and the cosmic scene, but I think that would lose the noir touch to the game.
Because I start thinking of things like, well, where did the food come from? Where did goods come from?
Sure. Well, the cities has its own factories, its own, but it's true. That's a mystery. Where does food come from?
So, well, it's almost like gives it this like city in a bottle kind of feel.
Yeah, it's definitely that. I mean, it also serves that kind of mysterious aspect of the city, the unknown, the investigative field that we want to promote. So, that question of whether the city is real or not is really at the feeling that I wanted to convey in this story. So it serves it in this way. But yeah, people can expand it. You can decide that your city is a real city. Actually, when you create your series concept, this is one of the questions you answer. You can also decide one of the options that I haven't tried, but I thought it was a great direction for people to try was you can decide that the mist isn't real. Sorry, that the mist, this effect that keeps makes people forget, is not mystical. It's actually just a psychological behavior. You know how people kind of avoid trouble in the city and they just look the other way. So you have the option to play with the mist being, it's kind of more greedy option. The mist being a psychological phenomenon. People just look the other way when they see weird things.
So James Leslie has a question, more a logistics question. Looking at the site, I see it says shipping is filled by U.S. and Euro UK distributors. Are those just the people that are fulfilling the orders, or are those the only locations you ship to?
Well, we actually right now we restarted shipping all over the world, except unfortunately for Canada. We do have a shipment going into Canada, and it's right now in the customs. So until it goes through, we're not going to reactivate it. But let me rephrase it the other way around. As soon as it goes through, we'll reactivate that. But yeah, we just received the shipment to the EU. This stormy season has been really bad on sea freight, and things that were extremely delayed. Um, but finally, the books are in Europe, and we do have a small amount to be fulfilled from centers. We are also working with distributors to start getting these books into stores, and that's going to happen very soon.
Cool. So worldwide.
Yeah, and you can also get it from just Amazon.com. So it ships. They ship most everywhere except Canada, and and they it's really easy to get it there on our website. When you get it on our website, you also get a free PDF. So and we ship it with Amazon. So that's a bonus.
Customs always screw things up coming north. Sorry, James.
Fortunately.
These things happen. So, yeah, we're right up around that time. Parting words you want to leave people with?
Um, Try it out. Pretty much try it out. It was really great coming on Nerdarchy, and yeah, I think that the thing that makes me the happiest is how much people are excited about the game, and if that happens, I'm really happy out, as we say.
Cool. I mean, that is always awesome. And I want to thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing City of Mist with us. And thanks everyone for watching. As always, the links are in the description. So go check out City of Mist. You can follow the socials as well as the website. So go give it a try. So until that next time, guys, stay nerdy.